Today we're going to talk about the placement of the right thumb when playing the flute. There's no one correct place for the thumb. It really depends on the size of your hand and in particular on the length of your fingers and the length of your thumb. You may even find that your right hand thumb position will change over time as you develop as a flute player. The most important thing is to place your hand in a position where your fingers can move quickly and efficiently and your arm is in as natural a position as possible. This is important so you don't end up in pain after practicing for a little while. So what does your thumb look like when you use it in a normal situation in everyday life? So if I grab a book and I look, just check where does your thumb line up with your index finger and your middle finger in particular? Where does it feel most natural and comfortable? This is how you're going to gauge where to place your thumb when you're playing the flute. Now we'll do the same thing with your flute. So you can see I don't have my foot joint on, and I'm going to rest my flute on my shoulders so that I can really show you well, and you can try the same thing. So place your left hand fingers on, and then you're going to put your index finger down for the right hand, your middle finger, and your fourth finger, and then just gently slide that thumb underneath. Now, most people end up with it sort of underneath their index finger or between the index and the middle finger. One of those positions. Now what's most important is that your flute rests on the fleshy part of your thumb like this, and that it does not end up on the side of the thumb, which is sort of on the bone, which will be painful, or on that joint there. So don't be a hitchhiker. Don't have your thumb sticking out. This is particularly bad because it really affects your finger's ability to move quickly, and it actually encourages the fingers to hang over the edge of the keys. So you really want to nip that in the bud. In terms of your right hand placement, be sure not to bend your wrist at a right angle. You really want to make sure that your wrist and your arm are straight, not like that. So now we're going to talk about the Thumbport. So the Thumbport is really great for people who find that their flutes roll a lot, especially when they're playing C sharp to D. It really increases the stability, and having a more stable flute means that you'll have a better sound, which is definitely a good thing. The Thumbport also really helps with pinky tension. And because the fingers no longer grip the flute the same way when you're using the Thumbport, it really helps your fingers to be able to move faster. The Thumbport may not work for you if you have an especially long thumb or if you have a thumb that really hyperextends at the first joint. So you're going to place the Thumbport on your flute so that the words face you, and it's going to be right underneath your F key, which is the key that your right hand index finger presses down on. Later on, you can experiment with moving it a little bit this way or this way to see what's most comfortable for your hand. And you can have a little bit of a gap between the mechanism of your flute and the Thumbport. And you can also experiment with moving that up and down a little bit to find the best position for you. Using the Thumbport is a little different because instead of supporting the flute with your thumb, you're going to be gently pushing against the flute. So that feels a little different. So be sure that you don't hold the flute up with this ledge here. That's not how it's supposed to be used. Instead, you're going to be pushing forward with the tip of your thumb. Also be sure not to stick your thumb down here. That's definitely not what we want. So I don't want to be able to see your thumb like this. It should be behind the flute, gently pushing in this direction. Make sure that when you're done practicing for the day, you take it off and store it in a small box or a bag. It's kind of small, it's easy to lose. That's it for our video on the right thumb position. Place your thumb under your index or your middle finger. Balance the flute on the fleshy part of your thumb. Never on the side of the thumb. And never near the joint of the thumb so that the thumb sticks out. Your wrist and your hand should be straight. To start, place the Thumbport under the F key of your flute. Later, you can experiment with moving it slightly higher or lower. There can be a small gap between the thumb port and the mechanism of your flute. Place the thumb in the crook of the thumb port. Do not place it underneath the thumb port. Do not push up on the thumb port, but rather push out against your flute.